I have reached the age of 61. For nearly 4 decades, I have been united in marriage. To the majority, I am the type of woman you encounter in the grocery aisle, only to be forgotten by the time you reach the next one. Serene, courteous, perpetually equipped with a list and a strategy. I was the reliable sort, the one who prepared lunches, settled bills punctually, and always remembered a birthday. For me, love embodied loyalty, a sense of stability, and the comfort of a quiet hand to hold in the stillness of night. I never sought anything beyond that. I believed it was unnecessary. Yet, the events of that day transformed my perspective entirely. It stirred something deep within me that I hadn't acknowledged, even though I was trapped. Since that moment, I have been irrevocably changed. Never did I imagine that an event of this nature could unfold in my life. Kindly avoid repeating the error I once made. It began on a drizzly Thursday afternoon. It lingers in my mind, that moment when I stepped inside from the garden, a wave of frustration washing over me as I beheld the tomatoes, once vibrant and full of promise, now reduced to a soggy, drooping state. The aroma of cinnamon mingled with the scent of damp earth, creating a sense of comfort that I had previously overlooked. I dried my hands on a dish towel, poised to brew a cup of tea when the doorbell chimed. Visitors are a rare occurrence here, especially without prior notice. Initially, I pondered that it could very well have been a delivery. Yet, as I turned the handle and pulled the door ajar, there he stood. Ethan, a colleague of my husband. Our paths had crossed on several occasions at company gatherings, dinners, a summer barbecue, those typical events where I found myself lingering near the veggie tray, engaging in light conversation with the wives while the men indulged in beer and shared tales of their work. He perpetually appeared more youthful than those around him. Not defined by age. He appeared to be in his late 40s or early 50s, yet the manner in which he carried himself suggested a different story, attentive, aware, as if he truly perceived your words as they left your lips. Today, despite his altered appearance, his shirt clung damply to him from the rain, and he held a manila envelope tightly under one arm as if it were a cherished treasure. His eyes, typically serene and inviting, now reflected a deep-seated anxiety. "Hi," he said, his voice slightly breathless. "I apologize for dropping by unannounced. Is Robert at home?" I blinked. "No, he's at the office." "Is everything all right?" Ethan paused, uncertainty flickering in his eyes. That fleeting moment lingered, suspended like a breath he was reluctant to release. Then he presented a constrained smile. He shook his head in disbelief. "It's nothing urgent. I can leave this with you if that's all right." He extended the envelope toward me. I reached for it, but a sudden impulse prompted me to ask, "Do you want to come in? You're drenched." He paused once more, then gave a slight nod. "Thank you. That'd be great." I stepped aside, and the house seemed to hold its breath as he walked in. There was something about the way he filled the space, as if he didn't merely enter a room, but rather claimed it as his own. I guided him to the kitchen and offered him a towel, which he accepted with a quiet grace. "Thanks," he said, dabbing at his hair and collar. I made tea. It felt like the polite thing to do. We sat at the kitchen table, the rain tapping against the window panes. Silence enveloped us for a while. Then he spoke. "You know, Robert talks about you a lot at work." I glanced up, startled. "He does?" Ethan nodded. "He says you're the reason he stays grounded, that you're the one person who never lets him drift too far from himself." A flicker stirred in my chest, neither pride nor sadness, but something in between. "That's kind of him," I said. Ethan looked at me for a moment, not in that casual passing way people do, but really looked. "Can I ask you something, Eleanor?" I froze a little. Nobody outside of my closest friends ever calls me by my first name so directly. "Of course. What do you think makes a marriage last?" The question shouldn't have caught me off guard, but it did. "I suppose trust," I said slowly. "Respect. Habit. Maybe love if you're lucky." Ethan tilted his head, considering that. "Do you think it's possible for two people to truly outgrow one another?" My breath hitched. I hesitated to respond, for the reality was that I had been pondering that very question in silence for years. It wasn't due to a lack of love between Robert and me, but rather the sensation that we were like two trains racing parallel, close yet never truly converging. I think, I said with caution, people evolve, and sometimes that evolution doesn't happen in unison. Ethan nodded slowly, his gaze dropping to his hands. Robert and I had a difficult conversation today. One, my stomach tightened. Is everything all right? He looked up. His eyes were darker now, sadder, yet still calm. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I needed to see you. Why? Because he mentioned something today about you, and I couldn't let it fester in my chest without at least saying something to you directly. What did he say? Ethan hesitated, then leaned forward, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone. He said you've been lonely, that he doesn't know how to fix it, that he's scared you've stopped needing him. The words struck me gently, a soft blow that left me momentarily breathless. I turned my gaze away, and for the first time in ages, I found myself at a loss for words. Ethan remained still, allowing the silence to envelop us, his hands resting on the table, close enough to feel their warmth, yet not reaching for mine. Outside, the rain began to taper off, but within me, something new was stirring. I couldn't recall how long we lingered in that tranquil moment, but when Ethan finally rose to depart, an unnameable ache settled in my chest. I guided him to the door, my fingers grazing the edge of the envelope he had delivered as I returned it to him. He offered a faint smile, one that failed to illuminate his eyes, and remarked, "Tell Robert the first drop this off." I nodded in acknowledgement. I will. And then he vanished, consumed by the muted gray of the afternoon. I lingered at the door for a moment after it clicked shut, the stillness of the house suddenly amplifying in the absence of his presence. My tea had turned cold on the table. I chose not to reheat it. Instead, I settled back down, gazing out the window, my thoughts adrift, louder than the rain. Robert returned home late that night, weariness evident in his every movement, slower than usual, as if the burdens of the day clung to him. He pressed a distracted kiss to my cheek while loosening his tie. "There's something from Ethan on the counter," I remarked. He cast a glance in that direction. Right. He mentioned he might stop by. And he did. Robert met my gaze, a silent exchange lingering between us, as if unspoken words hovered in the air. I observed him in silence, noting the way his shirt collar was still creased from the long day. His hands trembled slightly as he pulled out his phone and scrolled through emails. Even though he was home and no one would blame him for just pausing for a moment, I said gently, "Can I ask you something?" He lifted his gaze. "Do you believe I've transformed?" The question lingered in the space that separated us. He blinked deliberately, clearly taken aback. "What do you mean?" "Throughout the years, do you believe I've changed from the woman you once married?" He set the phone aside. "Naturally, you've transformed. We both have. It's been nearly 40 years. But have we changed together?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he ran a hand through his hair, then sighed. "Sometimes I don't know how to reach you anymore, Eleanor. You're still here, but you feel far." I swallowed hard. I could say the same. We didn't talk much more that night. We went through the motions, brushing our teeth side by side, changing into pajamas, lying in bed, shoulder to shoulder, but miles apart. I kept thinking about what Ethan had said. Not just the words, but the look in his eyes. The way he had truly perceived me. The following days drifted by in a serene haze. Robert immersed himself in his work, while I occupied my time with mundane tasks, folding laundry, tending to plants, running errands. Yet, in every still moment, Ethan's presence lingered in my mind. I hadn't anticipated crossing paths with him again so soon. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I found myself at the farmer's market just outside of town, a weekly ritual of mine. There's a woman who crafts exquisite handmade soap that I adore, and the man at the honey stand always offers me a discount because I purchased from him once when he was just beginning his journey. As I sifted through clusters of late summer dollies, I heard someone call my name. Eleanor. I turned to find Ethan. This time, he wasn't clad in office attire. Instead, he wore jeans and a navy pullover, sleeves rolled up, sunglasses resting atop his head. He appeared relaxed, transformed. "Oh, hey," I said, taken aback. "Didn't expect to see you here." He smiled. "I live a few blocks away. I come here sometimes for the bread." We lingered in that moment, both uncertain of what to say next. Then, with flowers in my hand, I paused. "These caught my eye." "They suit you," he remarked, and it halted me in my tracks. I couldn't quite place why. Perhaps it was the rarity of such a compliment, untainted by the usual practicality or routine. "Thanks," I replied softly. We strolled together for a while, meandering through the stalls, engaging in light-hearted banter about the absurd prices of organic peaches and the ever-popular kettle corn stand. It felt effortless, a warm familiarity. And then, as we stood at the edge of the market, beneath the shade of a sprawling tree and beside a weathered bench, he turned to me and confessed, "Eleanor, I wasn't honest the other day." I felt my heart stir. "What do you mean?" "I didn't just stop by to drop off paperwork. I needed to talk to you alone because something's been weighing on me." There was a pause, a shift in the air. "I've been working with Robert for 8 years," he said. "And I respect him, but I also see things he doesn't, or maybe things he chooses not to." I didn't move, didn't breathe. "You deserve more than being seen as dependable," he said, his voice now a gentle whisper. "You deserve to feel alive." His words struck a chord deep within me, awakening a tenderness I hadn't acknowledged in years. I should have turned away, yet I found myself asking, "Why are you saying this to me?" Ethan met my gaze with a quiet intensity. "Because I care about you more than I should. And I think maybe you feel it too." I remained silent, caught in a struggle where part of me longed to flee, while another part clung to that fleeting moment. The drive home from the market stretched on, feeling longer than ever before. I remember gripping the steering wheel harder than necessary, my knuckles pale against the leather. The flowers lay on the passenger seat beside me, their colors too vivid, too alive for the heaviness inside my chest. I didn't turn on the radio. I craved silence. I needed to hear my thoughts. But they weren't thoughts exactly. They were feelings, sensations, a thrum in my chest, an ache in my ribs, the echo of Ethan's words resonating louder than anything else. "You deserve to feel alive." That evening, I didn't tell Robert I'd run into Ethan. Running into Ethan was a familiar comfort. I prepared dinner, a dish of lemon chicken paired with roasted potatoes, his favorite. We dined in silence, as was our custom, exchanging inquiries about our days, not for the sake of revelation, but to preserve our established cadence. Once the meal was finished, he retreated to the den to catch the news. I lingered in the kitchen, cleaning with a deliberate slowness, as if scrubbing could wash away the warmth clinging to my skin, yet it remained. Later that evening, I found myself alone on the back porch. A gentle breeze teased the edges of my nightgown, and the sound of crickets filled the stillness of the night. I wrapped my arms around myself, not from the chill in the air, but from a heaviness I struggled to bear. Had I truly been lonely for this long? Had I really hidden fragments of myself so deeply that another could uncover them before I even recognized their absence? And why did the act of being seen bring both comfort and fear? The following morning, I caught myself glancing at my phone more frequently, yearning for a message, exchanging hope for disappointment. Nothing arrived. Yet, the day after, a brief message finally appeared. "Would you care to join me for coffee? Just to have a conversation. I'll honor whatever choice you make." No pressure, no games, simply that. I gazed at it for what seemed like an eternity. Then I responded, "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., away in a corner, a hidden gem that seemed to breathe stories of its own." I had convinced myself that this was a necessary step, a way to find resolution, yet beneath the surface, I sensed the truth. It was never merely about seeking answers, it was about the bond we shared. As dawn broke, we found ourselves in that serene space, ready to confront the unspoken. Between a bookstore and a consignment shop, it was the sort of place adorned with mismatched chairs and handwritten chalkboard menus. I had arrived early, already settled with a cup of black coffee when Ethan walked in. He noticed me right away, offering a small nod before taking a seat at the table. "Thank you for coming," he said. I wrapped my hands around the warm mug, aware that I hadn't come for anything dramatic. I simply needed to understand. I could see it in his eyes. He looked tired, or perhaps just contemplative. There was a softness to him now that hadn't been there before. "I didn't plan this," he said. "I didn't come into your home thinking I felt anything more than professional respect. But when I looked at you, Eleanor, I saw someone who had built her life around other people's needs. And I couldn't stop thinking about what was left for you." He looked down. "You make it sound like I'm someone to be pitied." "No." Admired, but also recognized. He took a slow breath. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted. "Don't know what this is. It doesn't have to be anything. I just want you to know someone sees you. Someone listens." The words lingered between us, weighty yet not unwelcome. He extended his hand, cautious and unassuming. His palm lay open on the table, an invitation rather than a demand. I regarded it and, with care, placed my hand atop his, not out of recklessness or yearning, but from a quiet, undeniable truth. I had forgotten the sensation of being touched with reverence. We remained in that moment for what felt like an eternity. No one hurried us, no expectations loomed, just two souls entwined by something fragile and unforeseen. As we prepared to part ways, he accompanied me to my car. The warmth of the evening enveloped us, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead. "I don't want to ruin your life," he murmured. "You're not," I replied. "But you might be nudging me to truly see it." I refrained from kissing him, and he made no request for one. Yet an unspoken change had occurred, subtle yet enduring. The drive home was once again steeped in silence, but this time it brimmed with a newfound fullness, as if I had unlocked a door within myself that I hadn't realized was sealed. Sleep eluded me that night as I lay beside Robert, attuned to the gentle cadence of his breath. The man with whom I had woven the fabric of my existence, who had stood by me through victories and defeats, as the years slipped away faster than we could have imagined. His hand grazed mine in the shadows, a gesture born more of routine than affection. Yet I remained still, unwilling to withdraw. How does one quantify a lifetime of devotion against a fleeting moment of realization? The following morning, I prepared pancakes, not from a box, but from scratch, reminiscent of the days when our children filled the home with laughter. Robert entered, a look of surprise crossing his face. "Pancakes on a Monday?" he asked with a sleepy smile. I shrugged, feeling the urge to embrace something new. He poured coffee and kissed the top of my head. For a fleeting moment, I closed my eyes, allowing the warmth to envelop me, yet it felt different. Not due to his change, but because I had transformed. Later that afternoon, I found myself at the kitchen table, a notebook and pen in hand. I wasn't certain what I aimed to write, perhaps nothing at all. But as the pen met the page, the words flowed. I wrote about how I had constructed a good life. I penned reflections on my steadfastness, the pride I took in being a reliable presence for others. Yet, I also explored how that pride had morphed into a protective barrier, one that an unforeseen visit shattered. It wasn't love I felt for Ethan. Rather, he awakened a dormant spark within me, a part of myself I had neglected for years. My thoughts, my emotions, my authentic voice, he recognized them, and now I could no longer ignore their existence. That week, I extended an invitation to Robert for a walk. After dinner, we took a leisurely stroll through the park near our home, where the trees had just begun to don their golden attire, shedding leaves like whispers of autumn. He spoke of work, and I listened intently until I felt the need to pause. "Robert," I ventured, "can I ask you something candid?" He regarded me with a hint of caution. "Certainly. Do you ever long for the people we once were?" He hesitated, his jaw tightening ever so slightly. "All the time." "Then why did we cease our efforts?" His gaze drifted toward the lake, its surface glimmering like glass in the waning light. "I think we grew comfortable," he replied. "Stopped asking questions, ceased our encounters." I found myself at a loss, unsure how to mend the rift without causing you pain. "You didn't inflict harm," I murmured softly. "You merely ceased to see me." In that moment, he turned to face me, truly observing. "I'm seeing now." A subtle shift occurred between us. Small yet significant. An instance of honesty that had long been absent from our lives. We didn't resolve everything on that walk, but for the first time in years, we strolled side by side and genuinely felt connected. A few days later, I encountered Ethan once more at the market. The market buzzed around us as our gazes met from across the vibrant flower stand. A subtle smile graced his lips, and I mirrored the gesture. As he drew nearer, he made no move to touch me, nor did he seek anything from me. Instead, he simply remarked, "You look lighter." I inclined my head in agreement. "I believe I am." A moment of silence followed. "Are you all right?" he inquired. "Indeed," I replied, "because I'm finally choosing to be." We exchanged a few words, then went our separate ways. Without theatrics or unfulfilled vows, there exists a serene acknowledgement that our connection was genuine and essential. Yet it was also a moment, a reflection I required. I made my way home, a bouquet of flowers resting in the passenger seat beside me. As I stepped through the front door, there stood Robert, waiting for me. Not merely in body, but in spirit, present in a manner I hadn't witnessed in years. He gently accepted the flowers from my hand. "These are the ones you cherish most." "Indeed," I replied, a smile gracing my lips. "They evoke a memory I nearly let slip away." He refrained from inquiring, yet later, as we sipped our coffee, I found myself sharing the details with him. Not everything, yet certainly a significant amount. Thus, we commenced our reunion with a gentle and deliberate approach, taking care to rediscover one another. Not as we once were, but as we are now. Two souls continue to navigate the intricate dance of love, discovering new depths in their connection despite the passage of time. For the first time in years, I sensed that my voice was truly my own.